everybody. Today with me, I have Rajkumar Srivastav. He's a partner with SK Vestigam and advisor with Protivity Consulting Firm. What excites me is that he is an ex-law enforcement officer. He's a certified fraud examiner. Welcome, Rajkumar ji.
Yeah, thank you so much, Smita, for this generous introduction to the audience.
So can you share us the entire journey? What got you to here that you are?
I want to inform you that in the year 1989, I joined Mumbai in Maharashtra Police Force, and I went rigorous 1-year training at Maharashtra Police Academy, Nasik. And thereafter, I was posted to a remote location called as Ahmedpur, which is in Latur district, where I worked for 1 year. And thereafter, I got transferred to Mumbai. So my first police station in Mumbai was Mahim Police Station. But after that, in fact, I was then transferred to various other police stations. I served in airport security as well. But let me share my experience with the police station. I will not go into details what I have done at the police station, but yes, primarily, I want to say I had an opportunity in all these police stations to handle the cases of crime against women. Other crimes definitely I handled, murders and serious crime, all those things. So then I think, in fact, I worked in the special bureau also. I don't want to name that particular bureau where I worked. Then, in fact, I had an opportunity to work with the Anti-Corruption Bureau. Then I had an opportunity to work in Cyber Cell in Thane. I was in charge for 6 months there. From there, in fact, I resigned from the police. And while working here, in fact, I had dealt with some cases, basically people sending some sexually explicit messages, lascivious material and all those things. I dealt all those cases here in Thane Crime Branch. And also not only this, in fact, there have seen some cases or handled some cases where, in fact, the spouses, sometimes basically the people who are into the relationship, they started blackmailing their own spouses or their girlfriends when they, in fact, they never knew that this person probably would be blackmailing us about showing all those videos and all. So this was very common that time. In fact, I mean, we got a lot of cases, these kind of cases during that period. So, and then why did I leave the department and then join the corporate? It's an interesting question. There was one, you must have heard about Mr. Ronnie Mendonça. He was a police commissioner, in fact. He knew me, and he, in fact, gave an opportunity. He said that he explained me the benefits of the corporate also. So it appealed to me. I said, let us try this also. And then I took the decision and I got selected. Then, in fact, there were 4 offers that time for me in 2008. But out of 4, I chose Deloitte. I started working in Deloitte forensic team. And for the first time while working in Deloitte, I conceived the thought of Vishaka guidelines. And I told my senior, see, this is the new solution. I think we should focus on the regulatory compliance. I can take the responsibility for the solution. I'll lead this. So I think it did not sound very appealing to the leadership. They said, no, it may not probably work. But again, when I joined EY in 2013, till that time, there was always this solution, already the solution there, in fact. Then I was given that responsibility, seeing my background of law enforcement and the legal background. I participated here, and in fact, I had an opportunity to train so many people here. Then I resigned from EY in 2018 and started my own company called as SK Vestigam LLP. In fact, where I had an opportunity again to conduct the investigations, with multiple investigations. In fact, not directly, because again, you know that the POSH law doesn't allow get the names or probably know the names or identities of the parties to the proceedings. One interesting thing, in fact, while working with EY, I had an opportunity to serve one of the largest retail companies of the world, in fact, FMCG. In this company, in fact, there was allegation against a plant head in Nepal, in Kathmandu. So he was harassing the male employees sexually. So I had to travel Nepal and conducted that investigation there. So I, in fact, interviewed so many people in 2 days. And in fact, I got good evidence from there. And the confession was missing. In fact, when again I flown back to Mumbai, and then I interviewed the plant head also at Mumbai. And you'll not believe, in fact, he was a little tough, in fact. But I think because of the tactful questioning and all, he finally admitted, and he exactly explained the modus operandi, how he was actually doing that. And what he said, in fact, and what the victim said, the boys who was very, as you know, the Nepal is not a very, it's a poor country basically. And people, in fact, were keeping quiet despite so many boys, in fact, were sexually harassed, young boys who are working on the contract basis. Because of the fear of losing the job, they were not complaining. But finally, someone raised blown the whistle, and that was taken to the logical conclusion by me. And the client was very happy, in fact, taking this matter to the logical conclusion. and had an opportunity also to train the law enforcement officers. In fact, I was the one, in fact, who trained for the first time the local committee of Mumbai.
So that means there is some awareness happening. District officers are taking cognizance and creating LC, which is not available. You saw a struggle when the annual report had.
Absolutely. Yeah.
We have no way to find out who's the district officer of various districts. We are still struggling with it. I hope somebody there is listening.
Absolutely. In fact, when I started training the corporates, in fact, when corporate went to the concerned district officer to file the annual report, and the district officer said, no, this in fact, this doesn't fall in our jurisdiction, so we will not accept this. So then they again contacted me, and that I told them, please try to explain them and show this particular law, this particular section. They are in fact the custodian of this particular solution. They are supposed to take care of this, and they are in fact the authority who should accept those annual report. Till that time, they were not aware of this law also.
Yeah. No, still, like one of the district's officer, where we sent annual report, he called up the corporate and said, sorry, I'm not going to accept this because this is not my job. So he asked them then whose job it is. So they are like, we are not sure, you find out. We struggled and struggled. Then, we spoke to a few other legal folks and said that at least we have done our job of finding out. That's max we can do. Now we can't dump it on somebody's head saying that you take this report. There's a constant struggle. So what we have done is we keep a record of making an effort at least of sending it to a specific district officer. If they have not received it, then there's that much that you can do. What, according to you, being a man, being a law enforcement officer, being now a posh expert, equality means to you and diversity means to you?
This question, in fact, I don't want to give my perspective on this, but let me rely upon the Indian Constitution, because this is a very tricky topic. In fact, people, in fact, if you see, there are a lot of scope for the misinterpretation many a times when we talk about equality and all. So I think we have to understand from the Constitution perspective how Constitution interprets this equality and the diversity. So let us, I think, first talk about, there are, in fact, I usually cover this topic in various seminars or probably my POSH sessions. From the POSH perspective, I think we have to understand two things in here, or two aspects here. One is right to equality, and second is equal treatment. So when I ask this question many times to the audience, in fact, they say that this is one and same. So I think right to equality and equal treatment is not one and same as far as the Indian Constitution is there, though it sounds very similar. So first, I think we should understand what is right to equality. A right to equality is basically the right of all human beings to be equal in dignity, to be treated with respect and consideration, and to participate on an equal basis with others in any area of economic, social, political, cultural, or civil life. Then let us try to understand what is equal treatment of the laws. Equal treatment as an aspect of equality is not equivalent to identical treatment. It means that to realize a full and effective equality, it is necessary to treat people differently according to their circumstances.
Equity and equality. There is one beautiful picture. I don't know if you've seen it. It's a very famous picture. There is a match happening on the other side. And there is this very tall man, there is a child, and there is an infant who are trying to watch that match. Okay. Right. So what they say is equality is giving same size stool to everybody so that they can watch the match. That is equality. You have given everybody the same thing. But equity is that the man can stand and watch because the fence is only till, so he doesn't need the stool. The child can stand on one stool and watch the match, but the infant will need 2-3 stools for them. So depending on their needs, you provide.
Needs, absolutely. Yeah. So you probably, now you answered, you made it very easy in a very simple language by giving this example. I think we are on the same page, and you understand that, I'm talking from the POSH perspective. So if you see historically in India, women were always at the disadvantage. And if you see Article 14 also, I was discussing about equality, which was Article 14. And if you see Article 15 as well, it talks about there cannot be discrimination on the grounds of race, religion, sex, caste, and place of birth. And Article 15 also empowers the governments to formulate the special laws for the women and child. Why it was a need? The provision is existing still. It means, as I mentioned, women were always or historically at the disadvantage. And that's the reason it is necessary for them to be treated differently. Many a time there is always a debate. I mean, why so special treatment to the women? Or probably why this women-centric law into the place? So I think, and people very casually, they make the statement, 90% of the sexual harassment cases in India are fake, false. There is no data, nothing. There is no support of any data. But they make this casual statement. Of course, in India, if you see any law, take it any law, so there is some misuse of the law. I agree that, I mean, as far as POSH law is also concerned, it was misused by some women, and that was proved also, and then action was also taken against some women employees. But always, this is not a rampant kind of thing where the misuse or probably grossly someone is misusing this law. It's not possible. So that's why I'm just trying to make that point from the right to equality and equal treatment of laws. And of course, diversity is basically, it means understanding that each individual is unique and recognizing their individual differences. This is important. It is more or less same. These differences can be along the dimensions of race, again, gender, ethnicity, and sexual orientation. And understanding that diversity include not only always only ways of being, but also ways of knowing.
Ways of being and ways of knowing.
Knowing. Yeah. Each individual is unique, in fact. So if we say, I mean, we cannot be strictly interpreting that. We are just saying that here, as far as women is concerned, there are different challenges here. So we need to accommodate those challenges. Let me share one example here. I had gone for one of the raids at Gujarat border. And there was a team I was leading. And in fact, we had gone to, I was in Anti-Corruption Bureau. So I think one of my colleagues, in fact, was with me, a female colleague also. There were two female colleagues, and they were, in fact, and we raided the trap whole night. We were on the highway. See, I was treating every employee as an employee, as my team. I could not realize that, okay, even my team member is a lady colleague. In fact, she has different challenges. I never realized that. I just thought, okay, she's my colleague like other colleagues. When we conducted successfully the raid and came back after 2 days to the office, one of my batchmates, who is assistant commissioner now in Mumbai Police, she came to me and said, Rajkumar, I'm very disappointed with you. I said, what? What happened? So you know that, I mean, there were two women colleagues with you for the raid. And did you bother to ask them what was their, I mean, problems? They have in fact, the women have their own maternity problems and other problems. Did you realize that? I said, I never thought about this. She said, no, whenever you are going for these kind of raids or any operations, I think you should keep this in mind always. So that time because I was only considering she as one of the team members, and she's also a police officer or the police constable. So she is equally with us. I mean, that's not the thing.
So Rajkumarji, that gets me to a very interesting question. That will you going forward not have women employees in your team because you will have to think of so many other challenges or so many challenges they would face, rather avoid that, and have a battalion of men with you, because this is why a lot of women lose on opportunities because their male leaders think it's easier for me to just get men folks with me.
No, definitely. In fact, we see. I mean, I will definitely not go by that theory. Okay, I should not be having. I would not prefer women employees in my team. I will always definitely, because someone in fact told me there are some challenges which needs to be addressed. So if I can, I prepare basically. If I can talk to my employees as a team leader and understand their difficulties, coming for this or probably joining for these kind of operations, if they're okay. Or probably when they agree also, once we go there, probably I have to see them because there could be a lot of challenges like washrooms or there are other problems on the ground. I think in such cases, it is my duty as a leader, as a team member or the team leader, I should definitely, factor in all these things in our mind before taking such responsibility of the operation. So there is no option. I mean, I should not be taking women because of this challenge. For every challenge, there is a solution. You need to find out those solutions, and then as a team, we should, as a diverse team, in fact, we should go and deliver and achieve the results.
Sorry, I'm going to give you an example. I was doing a training in Bihar, Patna. Okay, this was a telecom company where a lot of senior managers of various districts of Bihar had come. Okay, and they were speaking, and when I told them about prevention of sexual harassment, the question that they raised with me is, we do not hire women purposely. Okay. So I said, why? I was so angry. It's like, why wouldn't you hire women? So he said that, listen, we work in a state, otherwise is safe, but there are some particular pockets which is not safe for women. And they have to go to these small shops which have, say, for the SIM card and all. They're really dingy small shop, and everybody there carries a gun. Okay, and at a gunpoint, anything can be done. If I send my women colleague there, and if they demand something which could be like beyond, and they show a gun, what can I do, and how much can I protect? So best is not to hire women and send only men folks there. So what would be your one tip to those people who must be listening to this conversation today?
Yeah, I think, see, I mean, this is a different challenge altogether. I completely understand, because from the welfare perspective, they may not be hiring women for these kind of geographies. But I think what is important here is especially the people, or I can say the government, I think responsible people in that particular society, in that particular geography, should in fact be responsible, and they should take the responsibility and should create the conducive working environment for them. So it cannot happen. I mean, this is the dangerous area where she should not be, the women should not be visiting such places. I think that may not be right. In fact, the argument, I think the state responsibility, I'm not blaming the state also here, but I'm just saying that finally the state has to take the responsibility and then create the conducive environment in such kind of in these kind of geographies. That is important.
Moving on to my next question is, have you ever assisted any client which had a very different perspective to approach or deal with sexual harassment cases?
There is one of the media entertainment company, which is a multinational company in Mumbai. In fact, they called us and they said, we want to get trained on this particular topic. And we had a meeting with the country head. And I was little wondered. In fact, if you see the entire team, what different, I mean, both the male as well as female gender, the people who are in the key positions, stakeholders, in fact, they were very, in fact, enthusiastic about having this kind of training. As a team, in fact, they spoke to us and they said, this, please help us in doing this training. And then the first training we did for the country heads, country head as well as the senior management. So they were very excited. They said that let us continue this training with other lot also. Then we did the training for the IC members, then the managers, then the legal compliance heads, and also we conducted training for all the employees across India. And this company, what is the worry of this company? They never received the complaints of sexual harassment. So that was bothering them. Otherwise, we always see that the companies are happy that they are not receiving the complaints, or probably they are receiving minimum complaints. So this company, in fact, they said, no, there should be, definitely there should be some sexual harassment cases happening. If other organizations are, experiencing these kind of things, we being the media entertainment company, how it is possible? So see the proactiveness of that particular company. And that bothered them, in fact. And they said that, and after our training, in fact, they started receiving the complaints. And here, they in fact called and said that, see, our training, in fact, we achieved our objective here. We are very happy that now the cases are coming. The cases are being reported by the victims now. So, that kind of difference I've seen as when I compare this organization with others. In fact, they wanted the complaints to come to the IC. That needs to be addressed. Till that time, there was not a single complaint being filed by the victims. And you'll be surprised the moment you enter into the premise of that particular company, or maybe you're trying to enter in the lift, or maybe if you go on any floors, you can definitely see, probably you can realize that, what we in fact read in the act, which talks about the company should be displaying the order of the constitution of the committee and the penal consequences and all. You can see all these things on different floors, and I think in the cafeterias, in the lifts, and all those things. You can realize all those things, or they believe this in letter and spirit of the law.
That's so amazing, because there are these organizations, that a few of them that I work for, and I keep pushing them that there is no notice that you put across. They are retail company, okay? So they have chain in cities, they have 4-5 chains and all that. So I keep telling them that you should be putting this. So they told me, why don't you get us a picture of any organization which has it? Okay, then we will follow them. So I said, why should you be waiting for others to do it and you follow? Why don't you become the leader? So with this,
Yeah.
I really want to, your example, I think these are the leaders who should be propagating, and we should also be actually talking about them across. Okay, and telling them that they should be doing such things, and encouraging all organizations of what they are doing. Yeah.
Yeah.
This is a beautiful story, Rajkumarji. Yeah.
Thank you, Smita.
Yeah.
I think another good example would be just not on the sexual harassment that you gave me an opportunity. We had together conducted the training recently.
Yeah.
If you see this company also where we did the training, not on the sexual harassment but the harassment. So definitely they are addressing that issue of sexual harassment via IC, but I think they did not stop there, and they feel that they felt that to create a conducive environment for the company, I think it's not only addressing the sexual harassment issues but all kind of harassments.
Yeah.
And you know that I think you advise them properly. They formulated the policy. They in fact started raising the complaints, started dealing with the complaints now. So all those things are happening, effectively happening, I think, in that particular company. And I have seen the first company with this company, in fact, where in fact they have complete, the mechanism to handle the harassment complaints apart from the sexual harassment.
Yeah. There is a huge confusion among IT organization, or what you call it, white collared organization, about having a workplace harassment committee or grievance redressal committee. According to them, HR should be doing this. So this organization that you're talking about is one of its kind. You know, I'm really very close to these guys because I like the way they think. Okay, and they are way ahead of various organizations. They have a committee and they're training them. I saw that one-off training. They continuously keep training them and upskilling them. So yes. Rajkumarji, moving to our next question, while you were in police forces, have you seen the change in or improvement in gender ratio? Like, I'm sure that when you joined police, it must be very, very different. When you left, it must be very different. Now, after so many years that you're watching them, will be very different.
The gender ratio is still not, up to the mark. Of course, if you see, there was in fact a report of state policing in India, which was in 2019 published. It says that only 7.28% of the women are working in Indian police force. Only 7.28 till now. And of these, 90% women are in fact the constable are of the constabulary rank, and only 1% of the officers hold the supervisory rank. So I think that is a little.
Then I would have a further question to this. That is work-life balance difficult when you are pursuing this job? Is that the reason why women don't join, or if they join, they don't stay?
I don't say that women don't want to join. There is a lot of competition, in fact, as far as women is concerned, to join the police department. But I think only thing is that the ratio is still, not very good ratio. If we can increase that ratio, if you see, in fact, the ratio in Tamil Nadu highest is 15% ratio. Some 10 to 15 years ago, we used to see the women police constable. There is one women constable assigned to 5 different police stations in the zone, or 3 or 4 or 5 police stations. For example, if there is a juvenile child taken to the custody, a missing child, or there could be for example, if someone want to take a lady victim to the basically the correctional center, or probably taken to the hospital and all, then we used to and always have the requirement of the lady police officers or the lady police constable. And this one lady, in fact, was getting calls from all the police stations from the zonal office. Please attend this police station, that police station. And there was no day and night. She used to be there for the day at a particular police station. But if there is a requirement in the night, she has to again travel from home in the midnight to the police station and serve and go to that police station. So now the situation is a little better. Every police station has now at least women employees, but I think the numbers still, in fact, are not very encouraging numbers that I can see.
Furthering to this, is it a very difficult job that holds back women from joining or staying in? Is it a difficult job? As in, like a doctor's job is considered very difficult because they get called at any point of time. A teacher's job is considered the best job because you work for only few hours. So you see a lot of women teachers there. So do you think a police officer's job or a police constable's job is difficult considering the other normal day jobs?
I think, Smita, you asked a right question. In fact, this is not only difficult, I can say it is a tough job. Tough job, why I'm saying it is basically the long working hours, that is one definitely big challenge. But not only that, but the police has to perform and give the results and meet the expectations without the resources. And there is always the lack of resources at various police stations in the department, and still the expectation is too high. I remember, in fact, we never used to get the weekly offs or the leaves for 6 months. We used to perform the duties at stretch for 6 months. Not single Saturday, Sunday, any leave, not even a casual leave of 2 or 3 days.
You know,
There was
that's a great point you have said, because if you look at the reports also, policemen dying out of stress, the
absolutely
numbers are very, very high.
very high.
And do you all get any support from mental health perspective? Is there anything that is provided for a police officer from mental health? Is mental health even recognized? That's my question.
See, people, in fact, how the problem stress. Many a time when the person, in fact, behave little differently, people, in fact, criticize him for behaving differently. But nobody try to understand, and nobody has time to understand. And also, our people are not experts to understand. I mean, if he's seeing behaving differently, people may criticize. He's not good. He's not basically doesn't understand how to behave. So those kind of remarks very easy to pass against a concerned person or the official or the constable. But I think try to understand that perspective, why that person is behaving that way. So I think there is no such infrastructure in the police to understand that thing. But I think I applaud the senior police officers. I think they, in fact, tie up with various organizations like NGOs, non-profit organizations, sometimes the corporates, sometimes the psychiatrists. I should really thank all these people. In fact, they come and, in fact, do the pro bono trainings for the police. They do the yoga trainings as well to increase their mental, in fact, the health. All these things, in fact, they are trained, and they say that, okay, and also about the lifestyle, eating habits and all those things. This emphasis has been done, but it is not in a structured format. Whenever there is a person, in fact, who thinks should be a priority, he takes the initiative and get the work done for that particular. But this should be a continuous exercise and effort for the department. I think that is missing. And when we work in the corporate, we all have the HR departments.
Correct.
So I think my personal feeling is that HR department is a need of the hour for the police department.
Yeah.
There are different departments. For example, we also have the police welfare department. But police welfare department, of course, it works for the welfare of the police, but it has a different priority. That doesn't deal with this kind of situations primarily.
Okay.
I think HR department is a need of the hour.
Yeah, I know we are running out of time. Quickly, any tips for the organization to build safer workplaces for gender agnostic, as in for all the genders, men, women, and also LGBT?
I think my personal opinion is that, because I dealt with so many companies, we all are dealing with so many companies. I think unless there is I think a tone at the top, or probably unless the responsibility or the initiatives taken by the employer or the department heads, I think this solution or this issue, I think, will not be tackled effectively. That is my personal feeling. In fact, if you just see, many companies, they are, in fact, are very happy that they have the e-learning module in the system, and every employee has a mandated training. They undergo that mandating for 15 to 20 minutes, and they said that we are complied, and they report that in the annual report. I think the thing is that they should be thinking beyond that perspective. And not only that, I personally feel that the law should be followed in letter and spirit apart from this. And I think that most of the companies, including the Fortune 500 companies, in fact, they are also not displaying those orders and all that. They are very little shy about displaying the orders, displaying the penal consequences, out of fear that if the moment we do this, there could be a lot of complaints coming to us. I think that fear should not be there, as far when we already have that mechanism. That mechanism is built for that particular purpose. If suppose if one is getting, or the organization is getting this kind of complaint, there's a good thing, no? That you, in fact, assure the objective of the law. In fact, the ICs and the committees, in fact, they still, I think, lack the requisite skills to take or probably deal this matter of sexual harassment and take it to the logical conclusion. And that's the reason, in fact, there are a lot of, in fact, the people, in fact, are aggrieved. The parties to the proceeding, they are agreed. Sometimes it could be the complainant, sometimes it could be the respondent. They say, no, we have not been given enough justice. I think that properly explaining them and taking that matter and giving the proper audience to both the parties, I think still that is missing. I think people, in fact, they ask questions, sometimes they threaten to the concerned employee. I think that will not work. They have to have a structured, in fact, the approach, proper mechanism in the companies. And only this would be possible once the country heads, in fact, the leadership, in fact, takes the decision and they dedicate some time on this. I think that would be very important. And another important thing, as far as the male employees concerned, I can say that you should involve, the company should involve the male employees, talking more about this issue, because finally, as far as sexual harassment is a complaint, finally, the offender here is basically the male employee. If suppose if we involve those male employees in this kind of initiative, I think they can become the brand ambassadors for these kind of issues. They can go and talk, see, I mean, we are responsible employees, not only, and it is our job to protect the women employees. and create the conducive environment as far as the women are concerned, or anyone is concerned in the organization.
Anything as a closing remark from your side?
Closing remark, I think definitely I want to say something for the women employees working in the companies. They should in fact be aware what is happening in the industry. They should be aware. They should be many a times observant in the while working at the workplace. They should be conscious. In fact, a very important thing is they should trust themselves. When there is this kind of incident of sexual harassment, I think they should understand. If I file the complaint or probably report, they feel that okay, first thing is that probably my spouse will question me. Probably you behave like this, that the reason you got the opportunity to say like, or probably because you dress in this way, that born to get these kind of reactions from the people. So you try to be simple. I think these kind of things are the retaliations are there from the family members, sometimes the people around. In such situation, in fact, the women should be trusting herself and then should be convincing them. So this is not because of this. This is basically a problem with the concerned person or the employee who has in fact, everybody is not that that kind of thing in the organization. There could be limited people or 1 or 2 employees who behave this very responsibly. And whenever these kind of things happen, in fact, they should have the courage and go and speak up. The moment they delay, I think then the trust factor, in fact, people usually make opinions and say, no, this complaint would be false, afterthought and all those things. So that should be immediately filed. It doesn't, I mean, I still say that, I mean, there's a gap in the law. In fact, it says only in 3 months. But I personally feel that this particular amendment should be there as far as this particular provision in the law is concerned. Because many a time the women take a lot of time to gather courage and come and file the complaint. And if suppose someone else is in fact facing this kind of issues, the other women employees in fact go and be very supportive to that particular employee and build her morale, courage, inspire the confidence, she can go and file the complaints of sexual harassment. And the women employees, I personally feel that they should be well versed with their anti-sexual harassment policy of the companies. And they should also try to understand what is harassment and discrimination. Many times, some people, in fact, they say, okay, there is a harassment from a male employee or the male manager, it means there is a sexual harassment. It is not. So I always say that every harassment is not a sexual harassment, but every sexual harassment is a harassment. Once they understand what is the difference between harassment, discrimination, sexual harassment, I think that can also ease the burden on the sexual harassment committees or anti-sexual harassment committees. But I'm not saying that if there is harassment, discrimination, they should not file the complaint. They should go to the different the organization to file the complaints.
And if IC get to know that it's a different kind of harassment, they should also advise them to go to the right committee. Yeah, they should not simply push them back. Yeah,
absolutely. And my last, I think, a very important, I think, a message to the women employees. The women also should, I think, refrain from filing the malicious and the false complaints against the women employees.
People just need a reason to typecast, and this could become one reason to say that women always file malicious complaints.
Absolutely, yeah.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Rajkumarji. And I'm sure our viewers will also take away so many inputs from this conversation. Thank you very much for joining.
Thank you so much for giving me this opportunity to come and speak on this subject.